Hello, you folks, and welcome to Kelly's Chronicles, my channel where I sit down with people who are living everyday lives and listen to their extraordinary stories hidden behind quiet, normal existences. Because here we believe those lives are the most important and need to be acknowledged, heard, and celebrated as to not be forgotten by the passage of time. Hope you all had a wonderful week. Hope you all had a wonderful Christmas. The holidays are all done. New Year's has come and gone. We're now in 2026. I am back over here in Alabama, and Dad, of course, is still at home. And we had a wonderful visit. I cried many tears when I left. I didn't want to go, but that's okay. We had a lot of fun. We were in Idaho. We did a podcast with you, Dad, and we also did a podcast with Mom. So much fun. We had a lot of really fun stories while we were there. How you doing, Dad? Chuck, how was your week?
Oh, very good. I'm up here in eastern Idaho, where it should be like 0, 2 feet of snow on the ground. It's raining and it's 35 degrees. It's crazy. But
That
the
is
long
crazy.
range forecast, because of the La Nina, the long range forecast says that we're going to have a warm, wet winter. So here we are.
Well, at least it'll be wet.
Yeah.
Because that's good for the farmers and all the crops.
Yep, we definitely need to have the snow in the upper altitudes, which we are getting snow
That's good.
above like 6, 7. We're at 5,000 here, and then the mountains around us are all 6, 7, 8,000, 9,000 feet, and they're getting a snow cap.
Just to get snow.
Yeah, the ski resorts opened on Pebble, so. Of course, they have snow guns, so they can supplement the snow with their snow guns. But they do have a resort here close.
Okay. Well, at least there's snow cap. So I know when it gets to be a certain way out there, the farmers start sweating. All the people that have crops, even you guys start sweating because you rely heavily on your garden in the summertime. So that can be a little bit scary, but at least it's wet. That is good. My husband Danny was very upset. He was so sad.
All right.
He's like, there's no snow. I wanted to come to Idaho and have snow, and there's no snow. We had to walk him through Christmas. He's like, no snow. I'm mad. Sorry. We're sorry, buddy. He was just having a hard time with it. So, well, that's okay.
Yeah, like I said, the mountains had snow. If he wanted to, he could have went up the mountain and got the snow. But he said, "No, I don't want to do that."
We had so much fun when we were there, though.
That's good.
Yeah, we had a blast. Eating cookies and really gained 20 pounds. Maybe not that much, but man, I love Mom's turkey dinner. She has the best turkey dinner. Every time I go home, she's like, "What do you want to eat?" Turkey dinner. And all the fixins.
And she loves cooking those dinners too.
She does.
We all got another turkey for when Billy gets here. We got another turkey for him.
My brother Billy's boyfriend. I don't think he's ever had Mom's turkey dinner. He's in for a treat. He's gonna love it. But yeah, we had a great time. We had a really fruitful Christmas. We had gifts all around the tree, and it was great. I had a blast. Much needed relaxation. We have a really special treat today. Dad and I went through a box of photos, and a lot of these photos are associated with the stories that Dad has told. So he's going to just walk through these pictures so you guys can have a visual of what he's talking about. And then we'll walk right back into Wisconsin and pick up where we left off. So you want to go ahead and get started, Dad? And then we also have a fun story from your grandpa that one of my cousins reminded us of. How about you go ahead and start in on it?
Okay, my grandfather Oscar was a contractor. He was mainly a carpenter, but there was one thing that I guess he was back when jobs were scarce back in the Depression, and he went to Denver and worked on high steel. One of his jobs was he was a riveter. In the old days, they would rivet the steel frames together on these high rises.
Mm.
Now they weld them, but back then they bolt them and weld them. Back then it was all riveted. And these rivets were, oh, they look like little mushrooms, what they look like. They're about inch and a half long, and then had a head on them, and then a body that went through the. They would pre-drill the holes in the girders, and then they would heat these. They'd heat these rivets till red hot. What it did when it gets red hot, it gets soft, and so they'd have a guy running a forge heating these rivets up. And when he got up to red hot, he would take a pair of pliers and throw the rivet, literally throw the rivet through the air. And there would be a guy with a funnel, and he would catch the rivet and then take it out with a pair of pliers and stick it in the pre drilled hole in the girders. And then there would be a guy there. I'm not sure whether it would be the catcher or another guy with a rivet gun. It was an air compressed gun that would squash the body of the rivet out, expand it out to where it made like a plug in this pre-drilled hole. And my grandfather apparently was a catcher, a rivet catcher, and so he would catch these red hot rivets and then put them in the proper hole. And then there would be a guy, I think on the other side, there would be a guy with a compressed air gun who would, and then my grandfather would hold the end of the rivet, the cap head of the rivet. And then a guy on the other side would hit it with this high powered rivet gun and squash it out because it was red hot, it was soft, and it would squash out and form a permanent bond on the girder. So my grandpa was a rivet catcher.
That's really cool.
Yeah, yeah, they don't do it like that anymore. But that's the way they
No.
built the Empire State Building, the Chrysler Building, and the high rises in Denver were all built with rivets and these girders.
Oh, that's really
Yeah,
interesting that he had a really important part of building the metropolitan area of Denver. So
yeah,
that's pretty neat. That's really
yeah.
cool
He
that he was a part of that.
mainly he worked in Manitou Springs, which was out. It's over by Colorado Springs. That's where he normally did. That was where he was a carpenter. And
Yeah, you told us that story. I
the
remember
thing with
that.
the that's a totally different aspect. That's Denver's like 100 miles north of Colorado
Mhm.
Springs. Yeah, so he went up there and earned a little extra money.
Wherever you can pick up a dollar. That's
Now
cool.
we get started on the pictures.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, this is the first one I want to show. Get the slide
You gotta
right.
get the light. Okay.
Okay, this is my dad, Harry, and he was a range master in the Marine Corps during the Korean War. He taught small arms, rifles and pistols and that sort of thing. And here he is, this berm that he's standing on as the rifle range at Camp Pendleton, California. And now you have to remember he's a World War II veteran. This during the Korean War, so he's a really hardcore veteran. And you have to understand that the Marines, you have to qualify every year with a rifle. All Marines are riflemen, and so Dad was responsible for the safety of the range. He was a range master, and they would have everybody would come out. There would be colonels and majors and sergeants and privates and everything. All these Marines coming out, and requalifying on their annual rifle skills. And if you didn't do exactly what you're supposed to do, this man would come down on you like a crazy. He would be screaming and hollering and calling you everything but a human being. He was being the range master. He was basically a god. And if you messed with my dad on his rifle range, you were fresh meat. Yeah.
Didn't matter what
So
rank you were, did it? He
didn't
would.
make any difference. It had nothing to do with it.
No.
It was all about safety and qualification, period, and nothing else. Yeah.
That's
And
really.
let's see.
He looks like a
Yeah,
guy in
he was.
charge too.
Yeah, and he wasn't a big man. He was about 5'7", and he wasn't a big man, but he had a lot of. And here's a picture of him. This is a picture of him in not in his Marine uniform, of course.
And he's joking around. It looks like he's doing a belly, just like.
Yeah, his brother, Uncle John, they were about the same height and the same physical. They took after their mother.
Oh
My
yeah.
grandmother was short and squat, and my grandmother was probably 5'2", 5'3". My grandfather was 6'4", 6'6", something like that.
Yeah.
Big old wrangly Swede. And grandma was a little tiny English girl.
She was itty
Okay, let's see.
bitty.
Okay, here's a good one. Uh, this is. Can you see it? Trying to get the light right.
You get it really close. It
Okay,
helps with the glare. There we
dang.
go.
Okay, this is the car. I don't know, in the previous. Let me get this straightened out a little bit. It's ridiculous. In a previous session, we talked about driving down
There
the
you go, right
Alaskan
there.
Highway. This was the car that we drove down Alaska. It's a 1950 Buick Roadmaster.
That's
And
the
we came
car.
down. 1954 is when we came down the highway. And if you look in the back, there's an old trailer there by the front of the car.
Hmm?
That's the trailer we lived in Anchorage. And it was about 6 by 20. And it
Wow.
had that lean to on the side. I don't know
That's
if you can see it, but there's a on the side so it'd be on the left side of the lean-to. There's an ammo box nailed on the side of the house. That
oh
was our
yeah.
refrigerator. That was a refrigerator.
What are the so I remember that story, and then that was the same car that you forded the river with, correct?
Exactly. That was it.
And and it was also the one where the guy passed you guys and got the whole inside of it wet and
Yep.
muddy.
And nutty. Okay, here's a good tray. Here's a good picture. This is still in Alaska,
Who's that guy?
and this is my. I think I got this for my birthday. This the guns and the hat, and
That's a great picture of
I
you.
wore it all the time. And this is you can see the lean-to here on the trailer, and you can see just barely see the ammo box
Oh, there it is right
over
there.
on the left side. Yeah, that's our refrigerator.
You were about 6 in that picture, right?
Yeah, yeah, 5 or 6. And this, let's see if we can find this one other one. Okay, here we go.
Let's see here.
Mm.
Oh, there we go, right there.
Okay, that's me on my first day of school, standing in front of the school. You have to understand that my birthday was in January. So I had to wait for the next school year to start. I had to be 6 years old to start first grade. So I was 6 going on 7. in this picture,
Okay.
and then 1954. And that school that I'm standing in front of when they had the Good Friday earthquake of '64. My school, I got a picture somewhere. The school was a 3-story building made out of reinforced concrete, and covered it was a big school. It was a whole city block,
Oh,
and that
wow.
school had a 6-foot wide crack right down the middle of it.
Six
They
feet
had to
wide?
demolish it. It was cracked right in the middle with this huge crack, and
Wow. Were
that
you
because I
in
guess
that
it was
earthquake?
on top. No, that was 10 years after we left.
Oh,
But
okay.
yeah, it was a
But it
like a
wiped out the school.
9.2 or some ridiculous thing, and it split my school in half. I can't go back to reunion because it's gone. Okay, this let me see if I can get it right. Okay, this is unusual thing. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay, this is in Georgia, and you
Okay.
see the white stuff. This
Yeah.
was in South Georgia. This was the only snowfall we ever got down there in 5.5 years.
Wow. I was gonna say, is
And
that
right on it,
snow? That's crazy.
yeah.
Okay.
And on the left side of the picture, you can see like a part of a house. That is that's the landlord's house. It's an old type house that they had. This was in the '50s, and they had lived in it there for like 30 or 40 years.
And
The
Henry,
landlord was a former sheriff of Lowndes County, Georgia, and that was his home.
Mr.
And
Hand,
over
right?
on the right side, you'll see this old building. That was an old store because there's right there by that. There was this dirt road running down there. That was the crossroads in front of that old store, and there was just a family living in there. And that's where we wait. That's where I went to wait for the school bus. It was right there in that old store. And you remember the story about the Davy Crockett jacket?
Yes.
That was in that old store right there.
Oh
So
no!
I had,
That's when the jacket
yeah,
got melted.
I was only like 100 yards from the house, so I just came home and
Yeah, you were
told mom,
close.
my jacket's ruined. Okay, now this, let's see, whoop, upside down. Yeah, this is me standing in front of our trailer that we lived in. It was 8 by 35 trailer, which is basically what is now an RV. But back then, that was a standard uh, mobile home,
Oh, look at you.
and yeah, that's
That's a pretty good sized trailer right there.
8 by 35. That's
Yeah.
smaller than your
Oh,
trailer
is
that you're
this?
living in now.
Okay.
Yours is like a yours is like a 10 by 40 or something. And this is in. We're going backwards in time now.
Okay.
This is when I lived in California. This is in Huntington Beach, California. You can see I was even a cowboy back then. And
Love it.
in the background, you can see the windows on the second floor. And if you look real close, you can see a staircase going up to the second floor. That was the apartment that we lived in Old
Okay.
Town, Huntington Beach.
Oh, that's
And
awesome.
yeah, this was again. This is back in about probably 1953, 1952, because we were out there. Well, Dad was out there, I think, for a little over a year, training Marines, and then he got out of the Marines and went in the Air Force. Anyway, that's that. And okay, here's a good one.
Oh, look at you.
This was me and the Cub Scouts, and this is in front of the trailer in Georgia, in the smaller trailer, the red one. Well, it wasn't. You couldn't see his rib, but that was the 8x35. And later on, we got a 10x46, and we thought we were in hog heaven. I'll tell you, it was
You're
quite a
castle,
change.
huh?
Quite a change from an 8x35 to a 10x46. Okay, here's an interesting shot.
Yeah. Okay.
This is my grandparents, is Oscar and Iva. This is their 50th wedding anniversary. And this is all 6 of their kids, 5 boys and 1 girl. Now, Dad was the oldest. I think they arrange these in chronological order, but Dad was the oldest, so he's on the left end, and then his sister,
Uh-huh.
Ida Mae, she was next, and then Uncle Les, Uncle Clyde, Uncle Ron, Uncle John. So
That's
that's
awesome.
that's the Olsen clan there,
Yeah.
and their 50th wedding anniversary was in 19 was it 59? Must have been 69 because they were married in 1919.
Okay.
So do the math, and that was this was their 50th anniversary. I guess you can. I guess I
Yeah,
got it
that's
pretty.
great. Yeah, good clear
Okay.
picture.
Yeah,
That's so much fun.
yeah. I mean, they were. You have to understand that they raised 6 kids, and they lived north of Bethune, Colorado, 13 miles north of Bethune on a farm. And from now, Dad never said what kind of farm it was, but I think it was a dairy farm
Hmm.
because Dad was in his last year of high school. He was farmed out. Now he was hired by a local dairyman who had 34 head of dairy cattle, and Dad went over there to work to make $1 a day for his family. And he milked
Crazy, man. That's
34 he
crazy.
milked 34 head of cows morning and night for $1 a day by hand.
Mm.
And he had a grip on him that was unbelievable. You want that guy to get hold of you. There's a story about there was a amusement park in Long Beach, California during World War II called the Pike. It was just a normal uh, 40s amusement park. They had a lot of arcade machines and different types of rides and everything, and it was a pretty nice amusement park apparently. Anyway, there's one machine that measured your grip, and Dad went over there, and it was all pennies. So he put a penny in there,
Hmm.
and he put his hand up there and grabbed hold of it. It was like a hand that you would squeeze. And he went up and he grabbed hold of it and squeezed it. The bell went ding. He rang the bell, which is ooh, yeah, a lot of heavy grip, boy. You're strong. And these 2 sailors, he was in the Marines then, so these two
Yeah.
sailors are standing there and they go, "Hey, Marine, if we put a penny in there, you do that again?" The dad said, "Sure." They put a penny in there, ding, you ring the bell. We've been trying. The sailor said, "We've been trying all day to ring that bell.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you do that?" And he says, 34 cows morning and night.
Yep. That'll do it.
Yeah.
That's funny.
So yeah, that was that
I
was
love that
Dad.
story.
He's
That's a good one.
let's see where we want to go from here. Mm-mm-mm-mm-mm. Oh, here's a good picture. Uh,
See, there we go.
this is a full view of the trailer.
Oh, yeah, look at
All
that.
magnificent. 34, 35 feet.
I love those porthole windows that you guys have on the doors.
Yeah.
That's great. That is great.
Yeah, you have to understand that the trailer boom after World War II was mainly because of the aircraft that was used in the war. They produced tens of thousands of aluminum aircraft in World War II. Almost every single plane that was built in World War II was made out of aluminum. And so after the war, they just melted them down, made
Oh,
sheets out of them, and made trailers. I mean, that was all these trailers, all these mobile homes you might see in pictures or whatever, hear stories about. They were all made from surplus aircraft,
wow.
and that
That's
was
really cool.
that. And they needed, and yeah, and people needed, they needed housing
Yeah.
because a lot of guys come back from the war, got married, like my dad, and
Mm.
had kids, and so they had to have a place to live, and these trailers were perfect. They just slap them off in a production line and sell them to the returning GIs, and the ones that my dad couldn't afford to have a house, so he had to settle for a trailer.
Mm.
And they had a big bed in the back, and by the back door, and then there was a bunk bed. There was a big bed, then a little tiny bathroom, a bunk bed in the hallway
Okay.
that was turned lengthwise, yeah, and then a little tiny, like a galley kitchen, and a little tiny living room in the front, and that was it. That's where we lived. There was practically no storage space, no, uh, you couldn't have pretty much anything that was in there was what you lived in. You didn't have room to, oh, I'm going to go get a recliner. That would have taken the whole living room.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's
So you had a little tiny couch in the front,
itty bitty.
and had a little TV in there, and that's where we lived.
Did you have a little bathroom?
For Oh yeah, little bathroom. It was
Bathroom.
back there by the main bedroom in the back. Then there
Oh
was a little bathroom with a little tiny tub and a shower and a
yeah.
little tiny sink. Is real, very small, very compact. Yeah, that was where we lived.
That's awesome.
Okay, okay. I got one picture here, which is kind of random picture, but it reminds me of other stuff. It's a picture of a freighter tied up to the dock in Muskegon, Michigan.
Okay.
And what happened was, for my eighth grade trip, after we graduated, remember you telling me about I graduated from the
Mhm.
eighth grade, we took a trip on a Milwaukee Clipper, which was a car ferry. It was a fairly good sized boat, and they loaded. You go to Milwaukee or go to Muskegon, and you'd load your car on there, and then they would take you across the southern part of Lake Michigan to either, if you're going west, you went to Milwaukee. If you're going east, you go to Muskegon, Michigan,
Yeah.
and then they would unload your car, and then you could go on. And what that did is that avoided going through Chicago
Um.
and Gary, Indiana,
Yeah.
and all of. I mean, that whole end of Lake Michigan is clustered with factories and steel mills
Oh yeah.
and
It's busy.
people. So if you could avoid that part of your journey, you would save a lot of time. And I think they ran this Milwaukee Clipper up into the 70s, because
Oh,
I was on it in the early 60s. I think it was 61 or 62, and they ran these until up in up into the 70s, and people were still wanting to avoid Chicago, and
yeah.
it was really neat. There was only about four or five of us that went on her, because my eighth grade class is only like 10 people,
Oh wow.
and about four or five of us went on this. It wasn't the entire class, about just some of us, because you had to buy a ticket. I don't think they provided tickets for it. I think we had to buy them. I still got the ticket somewhere. Anyway,
That's awesome.
that was a fun thing for all us kiddies to uh, go to Muskegon on the ferry.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and let's see. Oh, here's a good one. This is my dad in his Air Force uniform.
Oh yeah. Look at that.
Shortly after he joined the Air Force, so he was fairly low ranking. I can't can't see his rank, but he was probably just an airman first class or something, which is fairly low since he was. But see, the thing about if you're in the military, when you first join, you have a 6 year obligation. You have to either do active duty or reserve for 6 years. Well, he had done that in the Marines,
Mm.
but he was on active duty. He'd been called into from the Marine Reserve. He was called up to
Okay.
train Marines going to Korea, and
Mm.
his he just his feet gave out on him. He didn't have really good feet. He had flat feet. They were doing 100-mile forced marches and getting the guys ready to go to war in
Oh my
Korea.
gosh.
And he did a couple of those, and that wiped him out. He was done. So he went to his boss and he said, "Sir, I can't be in the infantry anymore. I can't handle it physically. I'm breaking down. My feet are terrible, and I physically can't do this anymore. Can you arrange for me to be transferred into the aviation or uh, some sort of artillery or something where I don't have to walk?"
Mm-hmm.
And his captain says, "Nope. Once a grunt, always a grunt. You're not getting out of the infantry." And so Dad
Yikes.
said, "Okay." And so it was he had to reenlist, and he said, "I'm not going to reenlist in the Marines. I'm going to go." And you can, if you're on active duty in the military, you can put in a request, and you can go from one branch of the military to another. You
Okay.
could go from the Marines to the Air Force, or from the Army to the Air Force, or the Navy to the Coast Guard, or whatever. And you could switch services. And Dad went into the Air Force, got out of the Marines, and it killed him. I'm telling you, he was sick. He
Yeah.
loved the Marine Corps. That was his life, and that's what saved him. Because during the Depression, he joined the Marines in like '38,
Yeah.
and it was right in the height of the Depression, and his family was, I mean, in bad condition,
Mm-hmm.
trying to raise 6 kids in the middle of the Dust Bowl,
Middle of
and that was
nowhere.
Eastern Colorado was in the heart of the Dust Bowl,
Yes, it
and they had
was.
I went through dust storms in the '50s. They were still
Mm.
having dust storms. Dad got himself out of that and got into the Marines and was able to send money home to
Ah,
keep
that's
his
good.
family going. He
Well,
loved,
good.
and plus the Marines they were really tough back then. They had what's called rocks and shoals, which
Yeah.
was basically the drill instructors could hit you.
Wow.
They could physically assault you, and they would, in other words, they'd beat the crap out of you if you
Yikes.
didn't do what they told you. And they don't do that anymore.
No.
Absolutely, you
No.
can't
No.
touch. You cannot do that to recruits now. But back
Mm-mm.
in the '30s, in the rocks and shoals, and he made it through that boot camp. The little bitty guy that he was tough as nails, and he made it through that boot camp, and he was a proud Marine.
Yeah.
And having to get out of the Marines and go into the Air Force it really hurt him. Really made him
Was he like pretty depressed when that happened? Like,
I imagine. Yeah, I mean, I don't
I
know.
really
You know,
remember.
I was just a little kid, so I don't know. I
Yeah.
couldn't really fit the clues. but I'm sure he was depressed. Especially, you have to understand that the Air Force was just created. The Air Force was only created in 1947. So Dad was in the Marine or in the Air Force during the first 10 years of its existence, and they were clueless. They didn't know that he had to buy a new uniform about every 6 months because they didn't know
They
what they
didn't
know
know.
about uniform. They had no idea how to organize it. It
Rough.
was a mess because they were coming out of the Army. See, in World War II, it was the Army Air Corps, and then they formed the Air Force separately. They broke away from the Army and formed their own and it was a total, I mean, a cluster.
It was a
They were
mess.
clueless, and Dad and the officers were awful.
Oh, that had to
They
be so
a
miserable
lot
for
of these
him.
a lot of these 90-day wonders that they
Oh
just
no.
stuck. Yeah,
Oh,
oh, you have to. We need to have officers here. You're an officer. Go. And it was he
oh
did because in the Marines the officers were. I mean, they were incredible people. They were
yeah.
highly qualified, highly intelligent. I mean, I can't really emphasize enough what it takes to be a Marine officer.
Oh,
It's tough.
absolutely.
You have, and Dad, of course, he was an enlisted man, so he was down in the lower pecking order. They had some idiot Air Force. He was a victim of all of this stupidity in the Air Force coming out of
That's
the
rough.
Marines, where he had excellent officers in the Marines, and then going into the Air Force where they had these. I mean, school teacher that all of a sudden is a modern commander,
My God.
90-day wonders they called him, and yeah, they it
I
was
know.
ridiculous. Dad suffered in silence, I guess, but he had a good career. He went to diesel mechanics school in Keesler Air Force Base. So after we left California and Dad got out of the Marines, we went, and his first assignment was to go to school in Keesler Air Force Base, Mississippi,
Mhm.
and which was good for Mom because that's where she was from. She was from Southern Mississippi, so
That's
so
right.
for her it's like a homecoming. So it was really good in that respect. And he spent about 6 months there going to school and becoming a diesel mechanic. Just basically, I guess it was just a mechanic. He went through this school, and then that was when he was transferred from there to Alaska and working in up in Alaska on they have what they call fixed plant, which was a huge diesel engine that produced electricity. It had a generator hooked to it, and it produced electricity for the radar sites. So that's what Dad did in Alaska and in Georgia. He
Mhm.
worked on these fixed plants, these huge diesel engines. I mean, they were the size of a house. They're huge things
That's
to
crazy.
generate enough power to run these radar sites because they had to have radars had to have enormous power. They were fairly primitive. They weren't solid state or anything. They're all tubes and magnetrons and all this pretty primitive stuff that they had to run these radars. So they had to have a tremendous amount of electricity, and Dad provided it. And
That's awesome.
he was a good mechanic. He had done that before. He had ran a fixed plant in Burlington.
Mm,
He'd worked there for a while because he was mainly an auto mechanic for the Buick garage, but he also ran the city's electric generator for the whole city and a big fixed plant. And I can vaguely remember being in in these buildings with these huge generators. And Dad so good in the Air Force that he invented several improvements to the engines, and the Air Force patented these improvements. They were that good, and they got patents on them. And Dad didn't get a dime because
of
the
course not.
Air Force, that's part of being in the military. You don't. if you invent something and they get a patent, you don't get any money
Yeah.
because it's basically Air Force property or whatever Marines or whatever property.
Yeah.
So Dad was that
Grandpa
good of
was
a mechanic.
he was
He was
quite a diesel engineer. Well, I will say, or mechanical engineer, as you would call it. It was pretty.
yeah,
He was definitely pretty smart with all that stuff.
yeah,
Very, very intelligent with all of those things.
yeah. All of his brothers all had advanced. Well, at least Uncle Ron had a doctorate. Uncle Les had
Wasn't
was Uncle Les was in Who's Who in America. They published a book that had all of the outstanding students and teachers in America, and
oh,
I think it even had politics too. But anyway, it was Who's Who in America, and
well,
Uncle Les got in there.
Uncle Les met.
Yeah,
We have like a picture of Uncle Les. He was shaking Nixon's hand, President Nixon's hand.
yeah, he
He was,
ran for U.S. representative out of
yeah,
Missouri, and so he got to go see the president. Let's see, Uncle John was an engineer, a civil engineer. He built
yeah.
Bonnie Dam, which was about 15, 20 miles north of Burlington. He worked on that and built that as a civil engineer. And
That's really
Uncle
cool.
Ron helped him. And Uncle Clyde was a banker down in
Like a bank
Florida.
teller or like a bank president
I think he was in the
or like
management. I'm not sure if he
management.
was
Okay.
president, but he was in the management of one of the biggest banks in Florida,
All these
and
smart people
very
in this
successful,
family.
very very well educated. Dad was the only one that didn't have a college degree,
I
and
guess have
well,
a
I think
college degree to be.
I'm not sure Ida Mae had one. I don't think she had one, but Dad didn't have a degree. All the other four brothers were yeah,
Yeah,
they were all highly educated and very successful in their
that's
in
awesome.
their pursuits, their careers. They were some of the best in the country with whatever they did. Yeah, that eastern Colorado, I guess that water was. Yeah,
Just
another thing. Let
conspiracy
me tell you another
theories.
story about Dad.
Okay.
When Dad died, he had one little tiny cavity. The rest of
Okay.
his teeth were absolutely perfect, and the reason was because eastern Colorado had fluoride in the water. And so
All right.
dad had perfect teeth. It
So
was
he was
no cavities.
right.
Well, of course, he didn't have any malocclusion like me.
Yeah.
He was, he was,
Yeah,
and
it's a nice
and he said,
teeth.
I never saw a toothbrush till I went in the Marines. He said that when I went in the Marines, he had these little things they were brushing. What is that? It's a toothbrush.
So what would
Really?
he clean his teeth with? What did he clean
Yeah.
his teeth with?
I don't have any idea. Well, a lot of times they would just take a piece of like a twig and
Yeah.
chew it up a little bit and get it kind of frayed on
Right.
the end, and then they would use
Okay.
that to brush. But
Huh.
normally they didn't have much in the way of dental hygiene. Yeah, but dad was amazing. Had amazing dental
That's
uh,
crazy.
health.
That's really
And
interesting how some people will come out with, their teeth will be really rough when they go through a situation where they barely clean their teeth. We're so spoiled. We know we have to
yeah,
brush our teeth twice a day, and for me, I floss twice a day because I'm kind of obsessed with keeping my. I have
yeah.
really nice teeth.
Of course, he didn't have any candy or soda pop or anything back then.
None of that.
They was like beans and bacon, basically survival food. And that was it, and you
Well, I heard
lucky if you got a biscuit and gravy. So yeah, it was tough.
it's crazy how some people have really healthy teeth and other people just don't have very healthy teeth. It's like genetic. It's crazy.
When I was in Wisconsin, after we moved onto the Air Force, we moved from a trailer park in South Madison and moved to North Madison to the Air Force trailer park. And
Right?
when we got there, I was, of course, friendless and kind of lonely. And
Yeah.
so I found out about air explorers. And used to be the Boy Scouts had the older scouts had the Explorer program. They had the what we called the Greenies, which were just they wore green uniforms and they were just regular explorers. Then they had Sea Explorers, Sea Scouts, and they wore like Navy type uniforms. And they had the Air Explorers, which I was in, and they wore an Air Force type uniform, a blue Air Force with the fore and aft hats, and a lot of the merit badges and everything were all related to the Air Force. So, in one of the things we did is we went on a canoe trip to Canada for 10 days. Went up to Ely, Minnesota, and there was a Boy Scout camp up there called. Can you see it?
Yeah,
Okay,
I can cut clear
that
enough. There you go.
that's the entrance to the Charles L. Summers Wilderness Canoe Base.
Oh, that's
It was on yeah, it was on Moose Lake up in northern Minnesota, and there was what they called the Border Lakes area, and there was the southern part was in Minnesota, the northern part was in Ontario, Canada, and we went on a 10-day trip. We went about 100 miles up into Canada, and we portaged from there was hundreds of lakes up there, and you would have to portage from one to the other. So you take
oh
all
wow.
your gear, all your packs, and your canoes, and carry them across, however far, maybe sometimes as much as a mile, but usually
Hmm.
it's only a couple 100 yards across to the next lake. And you had a friend when you got about 10 feet from the shore. Your friends would come out and greet you. About a billion mosquitoes, and they would chew on you. They would chew on you all the time you're going across that border, that portage. And I mean, you would inhale them, they would be in your
Oh,
hair. I mean,
oh, it's
millions
awful.
of mosquitoes. And you get to the other side, put your canoe in the water and load your stuff on there and paddle out about 10 feet, and your friends would stay back in the woods. They wouldn't come with you.
Oh.
They wouldn't go out in
Least
the so you had a little, as long as you were in the lake, you had some relief. And I got some random pictures here. The only one that's really probably good is
probably that one.
this is when you would get about 2 days out of Ely, you would come to the Canadian border. And this little cabin was out in the middle of the woods, in the middle of nowhere, and that was a Canadian customs. You'd have to go through there, and they,
It's a
you
good
know,
old Mountie, huh?
yeah, get. Well, I don't think they were mounted. I think
It's just border patrol.
rangers. I guess it's
Okay,
like there was like a Quaco National Park. It was a
got it.
provincial park in Canada.
Wow.
And the thing is really kind of people have to understand about this 10 days is there was no radios, nothing. There was no cell phones. You were out there, and if you got hurt or sick, that was it. There's
Yeah.
nothing you could do for you. You just had to be loaded in the canoe and taken back because if you got back to the Canadian border, which was 2 days out of Ely, then they could call in a seaplane for you, but you had to make it back there. And when we were on the northernmost lake up into Canada, we were about 4 days, 3 or 4 days from Canada, from the Canadian border. So we would have had to, if somebody would have got hurt or sick, we would have had to paddle back down 3 or 4 days to get a seaplane for them. So it was
That's scary.
absolutely frontier stuff. It wasn't. I mean, and we were ready. I mean, we wore life jackets and stuff, and we loaded the canoes. And we only had one situation where we almost capsized a canoe because we got out in the middle of this big lake and the wind picked up, and we were
Yikes.
trying to go the wrong way. We were trying to go with a kind of uh, uh,
With the wind.
with the wave, I guess you would say, and they were breaking over the side of the canoe. And we finally figured out if we went and turned into the waves and paddled that would be the best because you would and but it's a very because there's only about 5 canoes. Had about 10 or 12 guys
Hmm.
uh, on the trip, so that was the only time that I can remember that we were in some sort of distress, what the sailors call extremists, where you were
Yeah.
doing the wrong
Exactly.
stuff.
Scary.
We weren't a bunch of sailors. We were air. We would have been. We could have flown up there. We'd have flown up there. We'd have had a problem. But we had to do this stupid Navy thing. Should have been the Sea Scouts in those canoes. We should have been in the plane. Yeah.
Yeah,
So.
yeah.
Oh, but
Oh,
I had a great time in the Explorers. It was I have a lot of experiences in a subsequent uh, blog. We will go over some of the things that I experienced in the Air Explorers. I
that will
had
be
that
awesome.
was definitely a growth period in my life. I really went through
Mhm.
some stuff that just a canoe trip and a couple other things that really helped me to mature and to feel part. And it's always good if you're in an organization of any kind that is accepting to you and makes you feel part of something bigger and part of a group. It really helps you out, and it helped me out.
Absolutely.
I think that's what got me through the military. Because if I would have been experienced in the Air Explorers, I think I would have
Might have,
had a
might
much
have
more difficult
struggled.
time
Yeah, definitely.
trying to assimilate into the military. But for me, it was like a cakewalk. You know, I just went,
Mm.
yeah, yeah, we did this in the Air Explorers. Yeah, you guys, yeah, come on, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, that's
yeah,
nothing.
because we went through. I mean, we had a basic training thing. We went through one summer. We went out and they simulated going through basic training. I went,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
that's
okay, I've done this
awesome.
before.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So that's really cool. But we are out of
yeah,
time.
yeah. Wisconsin is we just kind of scratch the surface there
Absolutely,
because because I have to remember that
absolutely.
practically every weekend while I was in the Air Explorers, we would go somewhere
Hmm.
practically every weekend all summer long. It was
That's awesome.
incredible. We would we camped out in the winter too, where it was 25 below zero.
That's
Winter
really
camp
cool.
out, Devil's Lake. Yeah, yeah.
We winter, not in the snow. So we'll stop right there for now, and we'll call it a day. But we hope you all have a wonderful week. Thank you for joining us here on Kelly's Chronicles. Please be safe out there with all the crazy traffic and everybody trying to get back home again. But thank you so much for joining us. Please like, share, and subscribe. Please comment. We would love that. We really appreciate the support. And y'all have a wonderful week.